welcome back to Mac Music Review. I don't know if the camera's crooked, but it might be. But today we're going to be looking at the album I by Capital Kings. Capital Kings is a Christian pop EDM duo who in their first album were, I would say, pop EDM. In the self-titled album, the debut, Capital Kings. But then on this album, the appropriately titled I, as it is their second full-length album, this album, they go in a more EDM-heavy direction with far fewer lyrics and much more, music. They really put an emphasis on just the art of the electronic dance music on this album. It's also a good bit longer than their first album. This album is officially 15 tracks long, but it's really only 10 songs. It's a lot of fluff. But it's 15 tracks officially. There's an intro, and then there's an interlude, and then you also have, that's two of the 15 tracks, and then you have a version of Fire Blazing with Chris Tomlin, which is like a remix, and then you have the In My Arms, or Hold You in My Arms, or something like that. In Your Arms, I don't know what it is, but they have a remix of that song, and then something else that isn't a song. Yeah, the other song on here that's not really, an original song is This Is Not a Test featuring Toby Mac. This is actually the name of the Toby Mac album released in the same year. I'm pretty sure it was released in the same year, which actually features Capital Kings, but this is Capital Kings' remix of that song. And so, like 5 of the 15 tracks on here aren't even like real songs. And as far as guest artists go, you actually do have a really big name on here, which is Chris Tomlin. Chris Tomlin is an insanely popular and successful Christian contemporary music singer, really a worship singer. That's the type of Christian music he makes. And then you also have the fairly successful Christian rapper KB on the song Northern Lights. But as far as guest artists go, that's all you have on this album. Just basically 2, not counting Toby Mac on This Is Not a Test, but that's a remix, so I'm not really going to count that. As I already said, the music on this album is much more EDM focused than the music on the self-titled album. But what is interesting about this EDM music, there's basically different styles of EDM music. You can have like kind of tame, like uplifting, kind of more atmospheric stuff. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have like Skrillex and Knife Party, who just try to explode your ears. Music that sounds like it was like smashed together and like exploding, and like with music that has an edge, like that, and music that kind of can hurt your ears, I guess. Like really just kind of crazy music. And that's what Skrillex and Knife Party do. And Capital Kings strays pretty far from that kind of EDM music. On this, it's mostly just uplifting, big, stadium-sized, almost radio-ready. Even though none of this stuff is some stuff you would hear on the radio, I would say it's like radio-ready EDM music. The two times where they do go really hard on the music are Live for the Drop, In the Wild. It's not really 2 times. It's Upgraded, Live for the Drop, and In the Wild. And even so, these songs do not get as crazy as a Skrillex song, or like Centipede by Knife Party, or the craziest, or even like the least crazy Knife Party or Skrillex song. These songs don't go that hard. They don't really go in that direction. It's more soft and safe EDM music. The lyrics on this album are vague, safe, generic, unspecific, songs about love and feeling good because of love, and feeling happy because of love. And like on songs like Forever and Satellites, and most of the songs on this album, they're just generic lyrics about being good and feeling good. And then you also have generic Christian lyrics about being a Christian, or any generic Christian theme. Nothing hard in these lyrics, nothing that's going to really make you think, nothing original or striking in the lyrics on this album. As you can already tell by what I've said about some of the things on this album, this album is really not very good at all. As far as music is concerned, these songs are so boring and not cool sounding. And I mean, these songs, on first listen, you can enjoy these songs, but on second listen, you start to realize just how generic they are. and just how not cool they are, and how not original or anything like that. And they all just, each time you listen to it, it gets worse and worse and worse. And this album gets old so fast. Faster than like any other album, this album just wears out. The only songs on here that really are today, I would say, are still pretty cool in terms of music are Upgraded and Live for the Drop. These songs just have, you know, cool music. They actually sound cool. They go a little bit harder than the other songs on the album, and it actually pays off. The music does sound pretty cool in these songs. But the rest, just generic, unoriginal, boring. I mean, music is not very good. Kind of like the music on this album, the lyrics are generic and totally uninteresting. Totally unoriginal and uninteresting and safe and boring. There's no interesting lyrical themes in the... There's no interesting themes in the lyrics. There's no interesting themes at all. All the lyrics are safe and just... It's so boring. The lyrics on this thing are so boring. Even worse than the music, I would say, because there's two songs that have pretty good music. The lyrically, basically none of this album is very memorable or striking or very good, for that matter. The last 4 songs on this album are, or I should say like the last 5, are totally unnecessary. Like, these songs don't need to exist in the first place. They literally have nothing to them. Like, the remixes, like, the version of Fire Blazing with Chris Tomlin, and then the Capital Kings, This Is Not a Test remix, and then the remix of In Your Arms or In My Arms. They're not very different from the source material. They're either not very different or worse than the original song. These remixes don't add anything to the songs. I've never reviewed a remix album. I might review Capital King's remix album of their self-titled album, but remixes on this thing are not good at all. These songs shouldn't even be on here. This album is longer than it needs to be. Honestly, not very good. This is the most negative review on the channel so far, with extremely boring lyrics, extremely boring music. Capital Kings just absolutely flops. EDM music as a whole is not a great genre, for the most part. But these guys just make an extremely boring, unoriginal album, boring lyrics, boring music, nothing cool about it. The singing is not very good. It doesn't work as well on this album as it does on the self-titled. Actually, I don't have a problem with it on the self-titled. On this album is just lacking in every single element, and the singing is part of the way it's lacking. I'm going to give this thing 2 stars out of 5. Capital Kings. You need to up your game, man. You guys need to do something with your lives. They literally haven't done anything. They are so, like, it's 2019. It's been like 4 years since this album. I don't know what, they might be like touring with Toby Mac. I know they did tour with Toby Mac, but guys, you gotta make some music. Make an EP, make an album, do something. You guys are just, bleh. And go back to pop EDM. Try to stay away from what you did on this. This was so boring.